Hey, this is another response video for Larry from Otaku Assemble. He recently did a vlog responding to one of my discussion questions about race in manga and anime. And he brought up Dragon Ball Z and about the character of Goku, and brought up the fact that, he's not Japanese, and because he's a Saiyan, and that the Dragon Ball Z world, even though it's called Earth, it's not our Earth. And I just had a few comments I wanted to bring up about that whole Saiyan Goku thing. Yes, Goku is an alien. Yes, he's actually a Saiyan, not a human being. But that's not an excuse for him not being Japanese. And here is why. Superman. Superman is an alien. Superman is a Kryptonian. But he's white. And he will never not be anything but white, because he is a symbol of the all-American kind of dream. His race is irrelevant. If you think about it, it doesn't matter if he were black, white, Asian, etc., because he's an alien and adopted. So it doesn't matter what he actually is. It's more convenient because he grows up in Kansas, but it's irrelevant to the story. Yet, because of who he is and what he represents to the populace, there is no question of his race at all. And there's no question that even though, he comes from a different planet, that he's still white, racially. Then you take Goku, who is based on his story, at least if you want to take Dragon Ball, based on Chinese legend, who is also an alien and pretty much is a Japanese icon, the way Sailor Moon is for women. Dragon Ball Z is for men. He is an icon. He represents a lot of, Japanese values. He is still Japanese, regardless of being an alien. And I don't understand how people can say that he's not Japanese simply because he's an alien, and then still want to be like Superman is white. Because no one would argue that Superman's not white. No one would say that, Superman can be black or Asian and not get, completely trolled over. Because no, Superman is white. He may be a Kryptonian, he may be an alien, but he is 100% white bread. But Goku, no. For some reason, because he's not for some reason, it doesn't apply to Goku. And I don't understand that. Especially when you take into consideration the fact that the Saiyans, as a race, have dark eyes and dark hair, resembling the coloring of Asian people. So if anything, if you take the kind of strong warrior race of the Saiyans and think about it in the context of how that would fit into the strong, samurai background and that kind of coloring that's similar to Japanese people, it makes sense that even though Goku is an alien, and Saiyans are not exactly, they're not exactly look like samurais or whatever, but they are expies of that kind of culture and tradition, and I don't see where the doubt can come from that they're Japanese or implied to be Japanese implied to be Japanese the way Superman is implied to be white. And the fact that Dragon Ball Z Earth is different than our Earth also is a weak argument, because look at the structure of the Dragon Ball Z Earth. It is the same kind of design as how Japan works. The same kind of formation of islands. That's what that is. It's the same idea of having, your fantasy world reflect your own ethnic background. You take things like Lord of the Rings, since it's a huge thing, or Narnia. You don't question that those are whites or that they're white people, even though there's no real proof that they need to be that, because they're fictional and most of them are fantasy characters. But they are. And if anyone tries to change them, there's a backlash, because that's the way they're supposed to be. However, with these animes, for some reason that won't apply. Because when you change them, it no longer matters to the population outside of Japan, because to them, they are just, they're racially ambiguous. Well, not to the people who draw them. I am linking to articles about the art style of Japanese anime, which I think are important because what they discuss in these articles is that there are racial markers or national markers in the drawings of these people that may not be noticed by us, but is a style for the Japanese. You know, whether they're supposed to be, American based or Chinese based or Japanese, because it's in the arts. The arguments that I hear concerning hair color and eye color in anime are equally ridiculous to me, because here's the thing. Yes, Yusagi Tsukino does have blonde hair and blue eyes, but her mother has blue hair. Her past life mother had silver hair. Her biological daughter has pink hair and reddish eyes. One of her best friends has blue hair. Another one of her friends has blue hair. Another one has green hair. And another one that maybe her future self has pink hair. Has reddish pink hair. That's not normal. That's not any racially discriminated. I don't know any race of people on this planet that have naturally blue hair. It's an art style. And yes, it may seem to us like blonde hair, blue eyes, automatically Caucasian, but that's not the case for them. Like I mentioned this when I was talking about the last Airbender movie, that in Japan and other Asian countries, white is not the default. When you read a character in a Japanese novel, if there's no racial markers or indicators, they are going to be Japanese unless it's stated otherwise. Just like here, when we read a book, we assume that character is white until we are told otherwise, because our default is white. It is not so in other places. There was a great example about like when you draw a stick figure of a person and you draw the circle and you draw the lines and if you're doing a dark person, you color them in or you give them certain racial markers to make them stand out from the default. Japan, not the case, because their default is Japanese, not white. Is that to say that every single anime character is Japanese? No. Lena Inverse in the Slayer world, they're probably not Japanese. They all have Americanized names. It's pretty much a medieval fantasy show. I would not consider them to be Japanese. If they were played by non-Japanese people in a adaptation, I could go for it. Edward Elric from Fullmetal Alchemist, he's not Japanese either. It takes us in a fictional world. It's completely different and completely made up, and there are different ethnic backgrounds that reflect our world. And that makes sense. If they tell you that, or take us in a fictionalized world where it's clear how things are made up, okay, you can make that excuse. But this whole idea that they can't, that they're not Japanese because they don't look the way Japanese people look is preposterous. And it's not simply having an overt everything is a metaphor for something else in Japanese culture, because a lot of it is subtle. A lot of things are jokes and cultural things that we might not get because we didn't grow up there. I mean, I know Sayonara Zatsuba Sensei has a lot of jokes in it that are like Japanese jokes, and it's hard to get the first time watching because I didn't grow up there and I don't know all the jokes, all the puns, all the humorisms, and those all come out in anime. It's not simply a one note kind of like, oh, well, she's carrying a fan, so that's, Chinese tradition and Japanese tradition. She's wearing a kimono, that must be Japanese. Sometimes it's more subtle than that. And it's important to be aware of those things. And the reason why I don't accept the idea of having a white Sailor Moon is because Sailor Moon's not white. She is not. She has blonde hair and blue eyes. That does not make her white. She is Japanese. Her character is Japanese. Everything about her character besides her coloring is Japanese. So I don't understand this whole constant push to make these characters so ambiguous when the reverse is never done. Because it's okay to challenge their social norms, but not ours.